A friend of mine wrote me a letter this week and stated something that happened to her. Having read it and reread it, I thought it would be quite a lesson for tonight. She thought the whole thing over and thought, well, after all, I'll change myself, for the other is only myself pushed out. The whole vast world is myself personified. So she began to work on freedom, that I am free. And she and a friend of hers, who is here tonight too, discussed freedom. Then she said a vision developed soon after that. It came unexpectedly. Then I felt myself rise out of this body, while it began to sink into the ground. And I rose up and up out of the body. I realized then that the body was part of the earth. It belongs to the earth. Of the dust it came, and to dust it returns. And I rose up out of it. And from that day on, I have never had that vision again. I feel myself free. Now, she said, I had this on the morning of the 14th of February, this month. She said, I returned to this world from a profound dream. I knew that it was profound. I struggled with myself to remember it in detail, and the end began to fade. So I asked myself to reveal to me a vision, some vision that will hold it. And then I saw a serpent emerging out of its skin. And there was its dead skin, and here was a serpent completely out of the skin that it had just shed. Then I saw two serpents, a pure white serpent and a black serpent. And they became one serpent, the white one above and the black below. But it was one serpent, a black bottom and a white top. And then someone spoke to me and said to me, this is the fulfillment of Scripture. You will find it in the 8th of, and she said, I thought I heard John, but it could have been Luke, or it could have been some other. I couldn't quite grasp it, but I thought it was John or Luke. Well, I can assure her it is John. It is not any other chapter. It is John. If you are familiar with Scripture, you will find that John, the 8th chapter, when you read the sayings of the Lord, they are so condensed. Every saying is so condensed that the meaning seems sometimes almost impossible for one to follow. Unless, of course, you've experienced that chapter. If you've experienced it, it is easy to follow it. But I have read so many strange, peculiar interpretations by the great scholars concerning that chapter. They are men without vision, brilliant men. They know their Greek backwards. They know their Amharic. They know all the tongues into which it was translated. But they do not have the vision. They haven't had the experience. So to them it is something that is like a closed book. So tonight we will take that chapter and show you what is in store for you. She hasn't experienced it, but she's on the verge of it. For she was told, this is the fulfillment of Scripture, the whole Scripture. And the fulfillment of Scripture is the fulfillment of the Old Testament, for that was the only testament at the day that this was written. Now, it begins not on the first verse. The earliest manuscripts omit the first 11 verses. Somewhere along the way, some scribe inserted into that chapter 11 verses that you cannot find in the early manuscripts. The last verse of the 7th chapter is omitted, and the first 11 verses are omitted in the Revised Standard Version. They will quote it in a little tiny print and give you the reasons why, that you cannot find it in the really early manuscripts of the text. But some overly zealous scribe put it into it. If you're not familiar with it, it's the story of the one taken in adultery. That's omitted. That was definitely added. So it begins on this note: I am the light of the world. He who follows me shall walk in light. Here is one of the great I am sayings of this gospel. For the Gospel of John is full of I am. I am the bread of life. I am the living bread. I am the resurrection. I am the life. I am the way. I am the truth. I am the door. I am the true vine. So these mighty I am sayings are all through the Gospel of John. It's the most profound book in Scripture. So here it begins, I am the light of the world. In that statement, he is telling us that he is the consciousness of humanity. For we are told in the Gospel of John, in him was life, and the life was the light of men. Were he not in you as your own wonderful I am, you would not be animated. You would not be conscious. And I know from my own experience that there is in man that life, and one day he will be in control of it, and he will actually know from experience that the whole vast world is himself pushed out. He will arrest that activity within him, and everything that he observes will stand still, proving that he is the light, the consciousness of man. They have no consciousness. Before your own eyes, they appear as dead people, completely dead, made as though they were made of wax. You release the activity within you that you only a moment before froze, and everything becomes once more reanimated. So you know where the source of all things are. It's all in you. Your own wonderful I am, that's God. There is no other God. So you can change the outer world as you change the inner world. You can freeze it and then stop it. You can freeze it, change the internal you, and then watch it, and see the whole vast world execute the change in you. So I am, said he, the light of the world. That's your destiny.